Hi,
Hey, how's it going?
good. How are you?
Real good. We're just kind of getting done with the work week here. What a way to end it off, right?
Right? No, I'm excited for this. Anywhere where I get to talk about hip hop since it's been my entire life, I'm very happy.
Absolutely. And that's kind of the first thing I wanted to jump into with you is, coming from your really your entire life, like you talked about, back to 2009 when you jumped on and started doing vocals with Tech Nine and KOD. Um, is music something that you always saw yourself in, or was it more when you got immersed in it and started to grow older that you thought, I really want to dive into music? Or was this like from a young age you were just always musically inclined to be doing this?
It's actually kind of complicated because growing up in the music industry and with artists as my family, unbiological family, and with record labels started in my basement of my childhood home, I guess me doing music always like seemed like kind of a given. Like I never thought about it. I just thought I'd do it. And at the same time though, is when I got into high school, my entire life, my reputation, like within my family and stuff, was always like I was the one who's good at school. Like that was the thing. Academics were my thing. Like I was going to go to a fancy Ivy League college and do this, that, and the third. And then about my senior year, after my solo career started moving, I realized maybe that wasn't the move after all, that cold college thing. And it kind of brought me back to my roots of wanting to be an artist more than anything else. Actually, I have a funny story if you don't mind.
Of course.
One of the I decided, like, okay, I'm going to do music. I was flying back from Hawaii with my best friend and my parents, my brother. And this is like winter, just after New Year's of, I want to say it was like right after New Year's 2017. Doesn't totally matter.
Right.
And I was watching Straight Outta Compton. And it was
Fair enough.
because I was looking at, like, we know so many of the people who were portrayed in that film. And it was so crazy because I was looking at, these portrayals of people that I know, people I've known, and these stories that I've heard firsthand and all of this. And I was like, God, like rap, hip hop, music in general, like this is my life. Like this has been my entire life. And moving away from it and not being integrally involved in the label and not being around these artists and particularly hip hop, it seemed so wrong in that moment. Like I realized, like, wow, like this is really what I'm here for. Like this is it. So Straight Outta Compton made a huge decision,
Right.
basically.
Yeah, and I mean it's true. It's hard to get away from things that you've grown up with your entire life. I mean, I grew up in a small town of 60 people. Farming. I grew up on a small, like self-sustainable farm,
Wow.
and I find myself even now, you know, I go back and I want plants around. I want to I eat locally as much as I can. Like it's things that are ingrained in with me, and I feel like when I'm not doing that, like there's a part that's missing, or I want to go home and visit that, and like that, and I get that same sense with you. Like if you're when you're around that your entire life, it's really something that you need to have around you.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things, people, I never realized until I was much older, probably till I was like 17, um, how much music meant to me, because it was like oxygen to me. Like you don't think about it, but you need it to live. And it was kind of the same thing. It was like this unconscious thing where I never considered how much I need music and what a huge part of my life it was, until I thought about, wow, I might be leaving this behind. Like this may be it for me. Because after my solo career started to gain somewhat of attraction, right? Like some sort of traction. Going to college, like originally I was like, I can go to an Ivy League school and have a full-time music, and I was like,
Yeah.
no possible way. And like I really tried to reconcile those two things for a long time, but like I knew for a fact that like I can go to college at any point in my life, but I can't revisit the momentum that I'm starting to gain now. This is the thing that can't wait. And I knew
Absolutely.
that I would have regret. And I think I would have been lost because like I have a really hard time. Let's therapy hour. I like I have a lot of identity issues, and like I have a really hard time. Like I always say, I don't have a personality. I'm water. I'm whatever you put in me or put me in, but I'm nothing in and of myself. That's kind of my thing. And so the idea of leaving this my entire life so far behind really was threatening to what little identity I felt I had at the time, you know, like, and it was a choice between who I am and who I was trying to be, and ultimately this was the right choice. And so growing up in a label, I think that it was probably impossible that I wouldn't end up here because I,
Absolutely, and it's a really difficult thing to face. I mean, you can see the hockey jersey I'm wearing now. I grew up since I was 3 years old playing hockey. It was something that I thought I was going to do. Yeah, I never really thought about pros or anything crazy like that, but college hockey was a big thing for me, and I ended up blowing out my knee early on in my college career. And it's hard to I never thought I was going to be anything crazy to begin with, but when that's completely taken away, it's definitely that identity idea of it is something hard to deal with. So I'm glad you are sticking with music, because what we've gotten out of you so far and what we'll continue to get, I think the fans love. I've loved it. I was actually today. I was really thinking about your song "Fun," because it's one of those things where sometimes you hear music and you're not really paying attention to it until like a certain lyric hits you. And what you say where like I still have fun even when like I'm alone, but I'm still having fun. And that idea in my head really really connected for some reason, because I think like I'm out at shows, I'm doing a lot of different things, but I come home and I decompress.
yeah.
And so I'm interested in where your inspiration came for that song, because a lot of times as fans, you hear something and it hits you a certain way, but I'm also interested in how the artist was feeling when that song came about as well.
Yeah, so in order to kind of explain this song, I need to explain it in the context of the album itself. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Um, the stick itself was inspired by a mental breakdown I underwent in 2018 that nearly killed me on several occasions, to put it very bluntly. And so the point of this album was to walk through that from deepest depths of the breakdown to recovery and being on the other side, whatever that means, right? And part of that story was conveyed through dividing the album into 3 chapters, right? There's the first 4 songs, first chapter, it's called The Rabbit Hole. Second 4 songs, second chapter is called Purgatory. Last 4 songs, last chapter is called Oxygen. So let's go ahead and move back to the rabbit hole, which is where fun is. So I really wanted to describe the abusive relationship with myself and the abusive relationships I had with others during this period. So with a song like Heart of Darkness, right, where we start the album, it really introduces us to the idea of being overtaken by negativity and darkness, right? So that kind of sets the stage for what the album is about. Then we move on to 5 months, 4 days, which is about like unhealthy relationships with others. The song is particularly centered around romantic relationships, but it doesn't have to be. Like that can apply to relationship in life. And then fun is, and A Cut Rose and Tap Water is when we really start talking about our relationships with ourselves, my relationship with myself. And fun was about this delusion I had, right? Where when I had this mental breakdown, I had my mind made up that I was going to kill myself. And I was certain. Nothing could have been more certain in the world. And so that being said, the way that I coped with that and coped with, trying to negate my survival instinct and my lizard brain, so to speak, was basically just kind of convincing myself that I enjoyed the freedom and the, of having an inconsequential life, because I thought I'm going to die soon anyway. My expiration date is steady approaching. So what's the point of me worrying about how I affect others, how I affect myself? What's the point in any of this? This is great, but it's really, at the end of the day, a gilded cage, and it's still a cage, because no matter how pretty it looks, it's still at the end of the day. And that last riff, I say, but when the night and the curtains fall and I'm on my own and I'm the only one, maybe I'm not having fun. It's at the end of the day, you have this realization that, oh, like this is all happening because I want to kill myself. Like the reason I feel this way is at the end of the day, not because I'm liberated, nothing like that. If anything, I am imprisoned by this negativity, and that's why I'm trying to convince myself I'm happy. So that's kind of what inspired Fun.
Yeah, and it's hearing you talk about that, it's oddly like eerie to when I think about a lot of the things that I've gone through myself when it comes to mental health, because of a lot of the things that you said, that like the idea that a lot of things don't have consequences because I'm not here for very long. It's a thought process. It's different in that I never had the idea of like I'm gonna kill myself. I just always had the idea that like maybe I'm not gonna be here for much longer. So in a different vein, kind of a similar mindset though of like, yeah, it doesn't really matter what I'm doing because in a couple of years I'll be gone, or I just had that mentality about things, the like die young mentality of I don't think I'm going to be here longer. So, and maybe that's just now hitting me that's why that song made even more sense to me and that I connected with it. But yeah, it is really I think it's really important to talk about those things a lot too, and that's why I wanted to also talk to you about the budding friendship you have with King ISO, the music that you guys are working on, and kind of what that has all meant to you.
Ooh, I like this question. So, I first met ISO a couple years ago. Tech had been bringing him around, and I didn't really know, obviously at the time, his music. I didn't know what he stood for, and so I saw him live a couple times. And it really wasn't until Strange Fest, I want to say it was 2018, that it was fully apparent to me. It might have been 2019. I apologize. I'm bad with dates. Where I finally got to see a set, because even though we'd been on tour together, the way our sets were sorted in the lineup, I was always getting ready or at the merch booth whenever he was on stage. So I finally got to see a set and see that what he stood for was, expanding the dialogue surrounding mental health, talking about, being suicidal, experiencing that, experiencing a lot of the darkness I had experienced myself. And so I took a real concentrated interest, and we'd always been friendly. We've always really gotten along before. We never had any problems. We'd watch shows together, et cetera, et cetera. But that was when I think we really connected on a deeper level. We were at the studio one day before Mystic came out, and my dad had played him a few tracks off the album, and he was telling me, hey man, like I really appreciate what you're doing. And I was like, hey, do you want to hear a few more? So we were in the studio, and I was playing him some of my music, and we got to talking about what really, the emphasis of the album and the catalyst for it. And exactly what I just told you is kind of the discussion we had. And he was talking, he's like, like I've been institutionalized. Like I also have bipolar disorder, even small things. Like I have really bad memory loss from going through the mental breakdown of my mental health issues and some of the medications I'm on. And I didn't know he had the same exact problem. So like on so many levels, we connected so immediately. The more we discussed like what we went through, the more we were like, oh wow, so much of this is parallel. And so that being said, he then sent me a song called Jealous that he wanted me on just a little while after that. And the premise of the song was like, I'm going through hell and some of you aren't, and that makes me pissed. Like I'm so jealous. And like in his verse he talks about that's in his verses, I should say, in the hook, that's like really the premise of the song. And then when I joined, my point was basically to say like it's basically kind of this phenomenon of I feel this guilt for feeling this anger and bitterness towards you, and like I want to feel better and I want to not be mad at you, but I am still very pissed because this is the hand I was dealt. Like I didn't choose this, I didn't cause this. Like for me, like my specific problem, like bipolar 1 disorder, only 2 to 4% of the population has that. That's not anything that could have been prevented. I was born like this, and it causes so many problems for me on a daily basis, and I struggle so much because of it. And I recognize everyone has their independent struggles, and that's another thing, another angle of the song, where like it's so hard to wrap your brain around anything other than your experience. So right. It's really so multifaceted. And then I sent the verse off to ISO, and he never, like for a little bit he didn't say anything, and I was like, oh god. And then he called me one night. I was on my way back home from the office, and I said, "Hey, what's up?" He said, "I love you." And I was like, "Hey, there we go. Well." So then we end up talking like forever that night and kind of discussing like the future we saw for this song and like us as collaborators. And just the other night, like a couple of weeks ago, we got on like a 2-hour FaceTime call where we were just talking about like maybe some extra things that'll happen when Jeff.
Yeah.
Potential for what we could do in the future and how we could like really channel what we both stand for and what we both believe in and make music that matters, because ultimately that was kind of the entire theme of the phone call, was talking about like, you know, we have a little bit of a platform, you know what I mean? Like we don't have anything crazy going on, we ain't got like Kanye platform, but like we have something. And you know, like I was just talking the other day, this wasn't to ISO, but I think I was talking to my publicist Dana, who's a friend of mine, and I was saying, you know, nothing's more boring than when people use their entire platform to promote themselves as a brand, because you're gonna live to what, like somewhere between 80 to 90, maybe a little more than that, and that's the longevity of that brand. Like that's what you got, that's what you contributed. And there's nothing, for some people that's just how they function, okay, respect, but for me, I can't imagine spending my whole life just trying to make myself a character, so to speak.
Right.
And that's all I did, and then after I die, what's left? Because there's no more me, there's no more any of that. So that's what really matters to ISO and I, and where we really want to continue to learn from each other and create music together, because we both are so passionate about this entire topic. Sorry, I'm a talker, by the way, you can tell me. We're just both really passionate about, you know, doing something substantial and expanding the dialogue surrounding mental health and things like that based on our own experiences and the empathy we have for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had ISO on here earlier on in the season, and he had the same mentality about you. He had the same passion for it, and it's something that like especially when things are not easy to talk about. Digesting those things through music can oftentimes remove some of the stigmas around things. And I think that's a huge way to use the platform. And it's really great that you guys found each other through Strange Music, and for him to be coming in, and others on the label as well. I mean, Chris Calico has done tons for speaking out about mental health disorders and everything with that. So it really is great to see everybody on the label and to see people that really vibe with each other. And so when I saw that you and King ISO, it made sense. I was really excited, and I'm definitely excited to see what's coming in the future for that.
Thank you.
So I also wanted to talk a little bit about the touring life. You know, with everything closing down, you know, you had been on tours in the past with Tech. I've seen you come to Minneapolis. It's one of the spots I know you make a point to come here, and we appreciate it. So it is great. And with that being said, you know, how does it compare? You know, getting yourself ready to potentially take over and doing your own tours, your headlining tours, and learning what you've learned from Tech. What is something that like you're real excited to start getting on your own tours and doing?
You know, nothing's better than performing at a Strange Music show, because it's a family reunion for me. The artists are all my big brothers. I really mean that, and I love them with my entire heart. So like getting to do what we love together is like incredible. It's mind-blowing. It's a beautiful experience. And then that's not even mentioning the entire listener base, like the attendance of these shows. You know, for the most part, like the diehards who've been here since day one have seen me grow up these shows. I've been to over 1,000 Tech Nine shows. That's not an exaggeration. I go on the tours when I was younger, my entire childhood. So a lot of these people have seen me grow up these shows. They've seen me walking through the crowd since I was like 2 years old. I'm 20. So it's and so I like know people there that I've like that are my good friends, that are people who are basically family to me, because we've known each other for what, almost 20 years. And so it's gorgeous. And like one of my favorite things to do, and what I miss when I'm at a non-Strange Music show, is during my set I always do like a medley of all my Strange Music features. And so it's my favorite thing, because a lot of people, like some that don't know me like that, don't realize that I've been singing with Tech and Strange Music artists since I was 9 years old. I'm on my what, let's do math, 11th year doing this. So
Yep.
yeah, it was very difficult for me for a minute. And so, all that being said, some people are not feeling my set because they're like, oh, fuck this. And then I do Darkness, and they're like, oh, that was her?
Yeah.
And that's when they turn into listeners, you know, and that's when they actually like start to respect what I'm doing and are like, hey man, like I wasn't feeling it at first. When I realized that was you and like this is a born and bred thing, like I feel for it. And like that's a really cool experience. And so getting to do that, or getting to even better bring out the guys and have them like do their verse on a song we did together, something like that, like it's crazy, it's really cool. But in terms of myself as a performer in my own touring, say I headline or go on a non-strange tour, the thing that's hard for me is that I'm used to that energy. You know what I mean? Like I'm used to like a Strange Music Tech Nine show. And the thing I always tell people about a Tech Nine show is that you could hate the music and sit there with noise canceling headphones on and still be entertained because of how theatrical it is. It is incredible. And that's where I really learned to be a performer, is watching these shows my entire life and watching how Tech and Chris command the stage and engage the audience. And that's something that was really hard for me to channel at first. When I was younger, when I was like 15, 16, really starting performing on my own as a solo artist, I really was challenged because I watched, you know, I was taught that being a performer means there are mosh pits, means you are jumping around on stage, means that you are doing things like stamina. You know what I mean? Like, and that is what I learned, that what a performer is. So then I look and I'm like, I'm not like it's kind of expands in my life in general, because like growing up around the artists and like these like very like stereotypical like gangbanger like crowd, like I was, the pinnacle goal in life is to be a big scary man. You know what I mean? So like small girl, that was very hard for me to reconcile the goal with who I am and figuring out like being the most intimidating person in the room. Like obviously I can't do that like this, so I got to figure out how to channel that in other ways. And it really applies to my performance as well, because originally I had like 4 backup dancers, 3 backup singers, like a whole crew with me, because I was just trying to figure out how to fill the void I felt, because I didn't know how to perform. I still really don't. I'm kind of still winging it. And so that being said, like this is a very roundabout answer, so bear with me. That being said, I really, really, truly found out as I went in that, you know, the masculinity and the energy that was brought in these shows I'd grown up watching, you know, I could channel that in different ways. And that's where like I really started to engage the crowd in a different way, and really began making my set like, and making my music things that I wanted to perform. Because like with The Edge, my first album, I didn't really have creative control. So then I was left with this album that was super pop, super bubblegum in a lot of ways. And it was very hard for me to perform because that's not who I am. It's not who I am as a performer. I got songs like Anxious or Preview that are super da 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 da. And then I get up and I'm in like funeral garb, and I'm like, how do we reconcile these things? So that's why it was also important, now that I have finally gotten creative control on Mystic, to do songs that fit who I was as a performer a lot better. And so I think all this to say, I'm really excited because the tour I was supposed to be on in March and April, we did exactly 1 show, then COVID ruined it. And it was crazy because in this show, the other acts I've been touring with, I was like 3rd in line, and the other acts were like a like pop punk boy band, then this like super pop girl, and then like a pop like kind of R&B girl, and the entire audience like, oh my god, this is great. And it was like so cute, and they were super bubbly. And then I got on stage and I was like, this my entire set's about wanting to kill myself. Like, what do I do with that? So I was nervous. I just got on stage, and the first thing I said was, y'all, I'm gonna kill the vibe real quick. Like, and then my second sentence was, when I was 18, I went a mental breakdown and I nearly killed myself several times. And then I was like, I just got to perform my truth. You know what I mean? Like, I try and make this something super pop, right? Super like geared towards the audience I'm with, or I could do something that's geared towards myself. And ultimately, at the end of the day, they leave. At the end of the day, at the end of the show, I don't. I stay with me. And I got to be proud of what I put out here today. So all this to say, the thing I'm excited about with performing now is that I really gear my set around telling the story of the album Mystic. So I start and I discuss, like, this is the first chapter. This is how low I was. And then this is when I made the hardest choice in my life, which is to recover. And then this is what it feels like and what I'm working towards now. And I'll tell you what, did I have as many people come to my merch booth as the pop punk boy band where boys play guitars? No, I didn't. But I had conversations with the people who came up to me about their history with, oh, my mom's bipolar and I really understood this, or, oh, you know, like I was really depressed about a year ago and I really felt for this song, things like that. So not saying that one is better than the other, but the latter is what mattered more to me. And so I was happy with that. So that's kind of what my performances are going to look like from now on. And my next album is, just to jump ahead, super yellow and orange, very eccentric, very funky, and a lot more upbeat than Mystic for a lot of reasons. And so I think performing that's going to be totally different. But in the light of Mystic, it's really about telling the story.
Absolutely, and I think there's a lot to be said about especially staying true to yourself in these things. You know, it's funny because it reminds me, I saw Danny Brown perform he was at a music festival in between Bon Iver, who I'm not sure if you're familiar with them. They're from Eau Claire, Wisconsin, but they're really kind of a poppy, I don't know, indie folk band. And then after him was Paul Simon from Simon and Garfunkel.
Mm-hmm.
So Danny Brown is smack dab in the middle of this, and I'm going, what in the world is he gonna do performing to these, like, I'm watching like these like late teen, early 20s, like all with flowers in their hair, smoking joints, handing them around, going like, and Danny Brown's about to come on. I'm a huge fan, and he came out to Die Like a Rock Star, and the crowd, like, I was taking photos. I turned around at the end of the first 3 songs, and there was mosh pits. Like, these same kids that were just handing around blunts are just going wild now. So I'm going like, when you stay true to yourself, sometimes it may not hit the audience, but also they're going to understand that you are you and you're not pandering. So yeah. I think that's important.
That is what's most important, I truly believe, because for so long I was not myself. The entire time, the entire The Edge era was not me. And I respect it. I respect people who like it. But what I always say is, if you're a fan of The Edge and not Mystic, you're not a fan of me, you're a fan of The Edge. You know what I mean? Because that is the difference. And it was, I love that you mentioned mosh pit, because in that show, the one show we did, there was a fight, a mosh pit, and crowd during my set. And I was like, what the hell? Like, I'm doing the house about the world. It's awesome. Like, why am I doing this? But I was all for it, because that's like my dream. Like,
right.
Like, growing up at like these like rap shows that are inspired by like horrorcore and all this, like, I was like, there's a mosh pit. Oh, yeah.
I've made it.
Right?
Absolutely. And I think there's a lot to be said about the performative side of things too. With, you know, growing up, you know, Tech Nine was always influenced a lot by metal music as well, and you can see with all the artists he's worked with. And it's one of the things that, since I started doing photography, I hadn't shot a whole lot of metal shows. And when I went back to shooting metal shows, man, there was such a difference in the performative style. Not to say that hip hop shows can't have performances and have lots of energy, but like Mushroom Head is a prime example of, like, they have like water drums, they have fire, they have all these big, huge, you know, sets and things going on. And I think it's starting to come to hip hop with guys like Travis Scott, Lil Uzi Vert, that are bringing a lot of these kind of punk elements, big style elements to it. So I am glad that you think about your performative side as much as your music side. I think that's going to lend a lot to longevity and to a lot of people growing a fan base as well.
Thank you. No, I'm sorry.
No, you can go. You can go.
Something I love right now is that I keep saying, like, rappers are now evolving into rock stars, and I love it. It means so much to me, because I was discussing with someone who was more of an old school fan recently. They were like, yeah, like, these rappers now, I'm just not feeling it, like nail polish. And I was like, no, they're just rock stars now. Like, they're taking that like borderline effeminate stuff, and they're incorporating it in, and they're taking the theatrics and they're incorporating it in, and it's like become a whole new art form. That's not to say the old school stuff wasn't entertaining, because I grew up on like 90s hip-hop. 90s West Coast was my entire childhood, and it still remains a huge part of who I am today. I just did an interview, it's about to come out in a little while, where they're like, top 5 artists that influenced you, and like first one I named was Tupac. So like it's like that's a highly important era in rap, but I love what it's evolving into. So, but sorry, your question.
Yeah. No, it's fine. I was just gonna say we can jump into kind of the heart of what this interview series has been about. It's called Quarantine Questions. So we put together a list of questions, and we created a specific list for the Strange Music Takeover as well. So this in Strange Maine, with you being the headline for Strange Maine. So here we've got the first question is, which artist on either Strange Maine or Strange Music would you pick to survive an apocalypse?
Oh God, this is really difficult. I would say probably Prozac. Here's why. Because my first thought was like maybe Gotti, because he's an alien and like I feel like he could master it. But at the same time, like Prozac is like, he's nocturnal, first of all, like basically nocturnal, and I'm like, that's a skill set that's probably necessary, is like adjusting, adapting. But also like he's just metal, man. Like he's just like so cool, and like all the other guys are too, but like in terms of like being pragmatic and chaos, I think that he's the least likely to die. So I'm choosing that.
That's a good choice. And it's so we can go through all 5 days. So we've had 3 people pick Gadamus, and one, I'm trying to think of who the other one that was chosen was. Oh, Recognize. Chris Calico picked Rec because he said he's tech savvy. He'll figure it all out.
No, but
so,
man,
it's
up there. Okay, sorry, continue.
No, you're good. So the second question I have is, what's one artist that you've been listening to the most during quarantine?
Oh God, probably Young M.A. I love Young M.A. I cannot explain. I am so pathetic in her DMs. I don't understand. I'm like, you look so pretty. I love your music. I was listening to your music today. I really like it. Like, so it's embarrassing. Like I've thought about like posting a screenshot of like just how embarrassing I am, but I was like, I'm like, my pride can't do it. Like it's just too embarrassing. So I'd say Young M.A. Like really, like she's just killing it, man. Like I love M.A. I love both the introduction tracks she's done. I love Smooth Criminal. There's just so much of it, and I'm like God bless. Like it's okay. Sorry.
Absolutely. No, I like the answer. And Young M.A., I remember the first time I saw her. I believe she opened for 21 Savage on the Monster Outbreak tour, and I remember she brought out a bottle. I want to say it was tequila. But she was taking shots and she was about to give it to somebody in the crowd, and then she remembered it was an all ages show. She was like, you know what? I can't check your ID right now. Like big memories I have of Young M.A., but she's incredible lyricist, incredible artist.
I almost got to see her live. Would you believe it? When I was on tour, the first Friday, our one performance was Monday. The first Friday of tour, I was gonna go. I had meet and greet. I was gonna meet Young M.A. I was gonna have a photo where I touched Young M.A. And, like I cannot explain. I was so hypey. Like I planned my outfit like with this moment I bought the tickets. Like I was gonna wear Gucci boots. So I was so incredibly excited. I had to leave the Thursday.
Yeah. Oh man.
And the show and everything got canceled, like COVID and everything. I was like, can I please stay? And they were like, no, it's a crowd, stupid. Like I was devastated, man. Like, oh my God, my friends are so tired of me talking about her. And like, sometimes just randomly, I'm like, remember when I almost got to meet Young M.A.? Yeah, me too. Like, yeah, we know. Like, I will die to see her live. Like, I would give limbs. I would sacrifice people, like whatever I need to do. Anyway, next question.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully when it's over, she'll come back and you'll see her then. So the third question we have is, which label mate is most likely to come out with the beach body, and which label mate is most likely to come out with the dad body?
Beachbody. ISO's like ripped. Like you've seen him. He's in the gym nonstop. He like looks good. But I mean that in the most platonic like sibling way possible, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know how to throw that line. But then I'm real sorry. But I feel bad. Right now, I'm not gonna lie. Like right now, I have gained so much weight during quarantine. Like I could say myself, I'm coming out with a dad bod. Like I'm getting there. But I know, like I'm trying to think of who I've eaten the most food with, and like who's as much of a foodie as me because like I love food. Like I'll eat weird shit. I love it. I'd say Chris and Prozac are probably like they're the ones that I go out to eat with because they're fun. So like I'd say of us will probably dad bod in it. Like most likely.
Yeah, fair enough. And this is just kind of an offshoot of this, but what's one of the weirdest things that you've eaten?
Oh, ostrich.
Yeah, I can honestly say I've never eaten ostrich. I've never even had the opportunity to.
No, I was at this restaurant in LA that we all go to whenever we're out there for work called Boa, and they're like, "In our special tonight, it's gonna be an ostrich fillet," and I was like, "Yes, baby, yes, it is." Like, oh my god, because my dad hates it because we're always on business trips together, blah blah blah. We're always at these restaurants where I get to try collect, and he's always like, "Please don't do it, please don't eat it." I'm like, I'm gonna eat ostrich, and it was delightful. So
Perfect. Awesome. So, okay, so jumping into the fourth question here, with a lot of the stresses that have been going on in the world lately, you got COVID, you've got the massive progressive changes we're seeing now. It's election year. A lot of people are stressing about a lot of different things. But what's been something that you can always count on to help you decompress and kind of recharge to go out at it?
Therapy and medication, baby. Like, I wish I was one of those people who could be like journaling and yoga, but like I'm not. I like over there. Usually at this point, I shake my pills like I'm a rocka, but they're over there. I am on like a beautiful cocktail of little lifesavers that I'm on every day, and that is like I can't do without that. And I have therapy now twice a week, which is like, ooh, girl, you're going through it.
Yeah.
I'm like really, really close with my psychiatrist. She's amazing. I would be friends with her if I weren't her client, which I think is a really like fantastic thing to be able to say about your therapist. And so I'm really grateful for her because she's really like, she's a fantastic person. I also like have really good relationships in my life. I have an amazing best friend. My mom and I are like super close. My dad and I are super close. And so I really have a good support network. I really do. So that's probably what I fall back on is very pragmatic, practical things. I know it's not super helpful for people with inspiration on how to cope, but
And it's true. And I mean, a lot of people, for the longest time, going to therapy had this really bad stigma about it. And, when I was having the worst of my anxiety, that's what I was doing the most too, was I would go to therapy once a week. And it was one of those things that like I didn't believe in when I started it. And by a couple sessions in, you're like, no, this is vital. Like this is a very important side of everything too. So
absolutely.
So the last question I have for you is, with everything that's happened, you're seeing a ton of changes in the world. What's one thing that you're excited to see change, and what's one thing that you just can't wait to get back to your normal routine on?
The thing that I am most excited for in the world right now is the Black Lives Matter movement and the reform to policing, to criminal justice, to just overall racial relationships in our country. Because like I was genuinely around my strange music family more than I was my biological family my entire life. And this isn't me trying to be like, I have a Black friend, but like genuinely like, and so I think for a blonde hair, blue eyed white girl, I really got to experience firsthand a lot of things that I wouldn't have been able to if I hadn't been around my brothers the way I was. And like, it was crazy because like I'm walking with these guys like down the street and I see people clutch their children in their purses, and because they're like these big scary Black men, and it's like ridiculous, it's disgusting. And then like I also have opportunities where I've like I was walking through a baseball game with one of my big brothers, and someone literally said, "Look at that N word with the little white girl." I cannot make this up. Like things like that. That if I were just in a crowd of people that look like me, I would have never been able to guess that people would be this gross. And so that being said, like seeing what they experience every day, things that I will never have to deal with, I am so incredibly excited to hopefully move past that as a nation, as a world, like as a society, because it has bothered me my entire life for very obvious reasons. It should bother everyone. And it's just disgusting habits we've kept for too long. The thing I'm most excited for to get back to normal is definitely like I want all the social distancing stuff to pass. Like I'm done with it because I'm one of the people that like I'm very shy. So like most of my social interactions, like being around people without being around people, like going to coffee shops full of people, like that's my social interaction. You know, being able to go to therapy and not just do it over the phone, like that's my social interaction. And so besides like my best friend, like my two best friends and my parents, like and my brother, I'm pretty much just like in a bubble right now. Or like I just want to go to a concert. I'm like, hey, like that's probably the thing I miss the most is coffee shops and concerts. Those are my life. That's all I do. So I really am pretty upset that the next several years are going to be messy when it comes to that. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
best thing happening right now is reform with criminal justice and racial issues. And the worst thing happening is that I can't go to coffee shops. So
Absolutely.
very different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's crazy to hear because, some of the things that I think about, like when you talked about being like social without talking to people, like that coffee shop idea is a lot of the way that I treat concerts when I'm doing photography is like, yeah, I'm here with like 3,000 people and I probably won't talk to anybody throughout the night except for maybe a couple of the photographers that I know. And then I go home and I'm like, yeah, that was enough social interaction for me. I always say I'm a sociable like loner. I sit in these big crowds, but I just kind of don't really talk to people. So it's interesting to see. And then the other side of it, I grew up in a town of 60 people that were all for the most part German. So I never really had a whole lot of experience with other cultures, regardless of what they were. I never had any sort of cultural experience except for German farmers in Northeast Wisconsin. So moving to St. Paul and Minneapolis, this was such a drastic change from anything that I'd really experienced in life. And I can say, like, for me, it doesn't even make sense to some degree how that happens because it was such a welcoming experience when I came here.
Yeah.
From all sides, from anybody. They talk about the Minnesota nice, but like it really was, local artists that were just like, yeah, absolutely, come take photos with us, come to our shows, like hang out with us. I'll introduce you to these people. I'll introduce you to these people. Like it really was such a warm, inviting culture in hip hop here that it's just so powerful to be here and to know the people that I've known since I've come here. It really makes you feel like family, and I've only been here for a few years. Like it's crazy to think, like from your side of it, growing up in it and having these people around your entire life. Like I've felt sort of that way from a handful of years of partially knowing people. Like it's pretty crazy.
It is crazy. And it's like one of those things, like, what really astonishes me about like racial relations and things like that, and like cultural deficits, and like, the massive, just ravines that separate people culturally that people just can't seem to get over for some reason, is that like, I genuinely like, okay, this sounds stupid, but when I was little and someone referred to my dad as a white guy for the first time, like they were talking about his voice and how like he sounds very Marlon Brando, he sounds like in a certain way, and they were like, but you never would expect like it's super young white guy. I was like so confused because like I never thought, it sounds so dumb, of like that is white. Like I never thought at all about skin color, right? Like it just didn't occur to me ever. And I was like 6, 7, somewhere in that range. And then that was when I started to become aware of like, wow, like some people are genuinely in environments where they're like that isolated. And that's not necessarily your fault, but it is your responsibility to culture yourself, you know? And so like, that excites me, the idea of people kind of, you know, hopefully moving leaps and bounds away from that segregationist mindset that I think a lot of people fall into, because there's so much like, there's so much to be gained from community. It's like you were saying with concerts, for example. Like, I love how at a concert, like so many people from all walks of life have a common interest that they then unite in and dance all night. Like, that's beautiful to me. Like, everyone's just dancing and singing and having a good time. And this, like, I never would have met you otherwise. Like, I never would have met this person next to me otherwise.
Right.
You know, our interest in hip hop brought us together. I never would have met you if not. And so things like that. So I think that, you know, just community is important. We're social creatures, and I think it will be, you know, hopefully really cool to watch people progress in that, you know. So yeah, that's
Absolutely. So yeah, so let's take a little bit here so we can answer some of the questions that fans had.
yes.
So let me just scroll through here, and if you see any that you would like to reach out to as well.
Yeah. Right now, if you see anything, ask me.
Yep. And you said, here's one. When will you be working with Recognize again?
Oh God, I really hope soon. One of my favorite tracks I've ever done is my track with Recognize called Settle Down. A lot of people haven't heard it, but like, I was in the studio with Seven. The way that track came about, actually, this isn't the question you asked, but to answer, you're good. Is me and Seven communicate very distinctly when we're creating. Seven being our in-house producer, Strange, who's my mentor, my hero, one of my best friends musically. He's my platonic soulmate. I love him. Anyway, we were talking, and I was like, I need a beat that's like like it's just like kind of orange and pink with like a little bit of yellow and blue. I need it to be like, I was trying to communicate it, and then my guitarist, one of my guitarists, Lucas Parker, incredible musician, was talking. He was watching us try and communicate, and he said, here's what she wants. She wants like, you know, I've been at the beach all day, just showered, I'm going out on, you know, in the beach town with my friends. And I was like, yeah, showered at the beach. That's it. Like, that's it. And so then Settle Down was created, and like, it was crazy because when Rec got the verse, he's like, so what does this mean? Like, settle down, like you're telling a guy to settle down, are you trying to talk to yourself? And I was like, you know, this is such a, like, when I started as a writer, I used to use so many words because I grew up in a rap label. So I started by writing raps, and then Seven once told me, please use less words because you're not a rapper. And as much as I want to be, I was a rapper who's impeded by my actual skills. And so what I said, this was when I first started to try and like make concise songs, and so every word had to pack a punch. And so like the song was like, you know, I tried to get to the other side of paradise, you know, but you know, and that was like me like talking about kind of my experience, like choosing to do music all day. Like, it's literally, I could go on for hours about this. I won't, because we don't have time. But you know, and Settle Down, it's like I'm making the choice to like simmer down and like realize life for what it is and all this. And so then Rec gets on it, kills it. We perform it live. Awesome. It's so fun. So I want to work with Rec immediately. So there we go.
Here's one, and I think somebody's they're fishing for a little bit of gossip here on this one. But they said, what's got you making love songs right now?
Oh God. Oh, I'm so embarrassing. I am like constantly in love. My therapist is like, maybe you shouldn't always be rushing in relationships. I'm like, I'm in love. Like, I'm always trying to, my life would be significantly easier if I were married. And my therapist says, you know that marriage is hard, right? Like, it's not like that. And I was like, but you don't know that. And she's like, I'm married, I would know. And I'm like, shh. But no, I have some feelings right now for a person. And I'm channeling them into music because otherwise I'm going to explode. And this person is probably going to see us at some point and be like, ha, I know what you're talking about. And I will then promptly gouge my eyes out because I'm embarrassed. So that's why I'm writing love songs, because I'm cheesy and dumb. That's why.
Perfect. The last question here we'll ask from Desi Baby is wondering, what hair and makeup products do you use?
Hey, so my hair, I'm not even gonna hold you. Like I wear extensions and stuff when I perform, so I can hide behind my hair because I'm shy. Right now, it's like my natural hair. My hair, and I curl it constantly. This is it, straight, which is what I naturally look like. Basically, just a lot of dry shampoo, baby. Like that's my hair. Like it's not really and nothing too impressive. Makeup, I use a combination of like drugstore products, like for my powder, and then a lot of Urban Decay. I use Laura Mercier tinted moisturizer. It's really important. I know none of this matters to you, sir. um, things like that. And maybe you like makeup. I don't know what you do in
I
your
mean, I got to get my hair working well too, so.
but I'm a huge fan of Urban Decay when it comes to eyeliners, when it comes to lipsticks. But really, if you want to DM me personally and ask about specific products, I will gladly refer you and send you pictures and all that fun stuff. So, to my friend who asked, go ahead and DM me. I'll tell you.
Perfect. Well, hey, I want to give the last little bit of this here to you to kind of talk to the fans, tell them what you got going on, tell them about any music coming up, any merch, just really anything you want to let them know.
All right, thank you. Okay, so the Strange Music website has a ton of new Mackenzie Nicole merch, very mysticky. It's very cool. We got enamel pins, we got water bottles and journals, we got amazing new t-shirts. Like this is really when it starts getting cool for me merch-wise. So I'm really excited about that. So if you're interested in wearing my name or face on your body, then that's an option. And a lot of the stuff is like centered around the eye pendant, which I don't have on right now, but it's over there. And so if you like the eye, the mystic eye, then we got a lot of that. So there's that. Another thing I always like to point out is obviously my Instagram if you're here, but I'm also Mackenzie Nicole on Twitter, at Mackenzie Nicole, and then Mackenzie Nicole on everything else, including every streaming platform. You can find me anywhere under my name, as one would presume. And then in terms of music right now, like I got some really cool shit in the chamber. Like I am so excited right now because like Mystic like is my passion. I love it. And like my next concept album is coming for several years. I've had it planned out even before Mystic, but like I need a break. You know what I mean? Like I need to do music that isn't as emotionally involved. It's still gonna be me. I'm still gonna love it. It's still gonna be authentic, and it's still gonna be important. But this next thing I'm doing is really compelling, I think. Next thing I want to do is finally get Coming for Blood, which I performed live and the fans have been wanting really bad. We're gonna finally finish that. I promise it's coming soon. And then a couple more songs that are kind of in that vein. I'll explain more when I can, but that's what's going to come next. Then we got the album I'm doing that I've talked about, my Yellow and Orange album to be named. And I think that's going to be really cool. Like right now, my thing right now is that the point of Mystic was to express that things get better. And so if I came out with another dark album after that, then I'm a liar. Like I lied to everybody. So like expect still moody music, but like music in a totally different direction. I'm constantly trying to reinvent. I'm constantly trying to evolve because that's what happens as a person is you're never the same from one moment to the next. And so really that's what I have to say. I'm super excited, guys. And thank you so much everyone who's tuned in because I love you and I'm kissing you on the nose. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. And I also want to just take the last second here to wish a speedy recovery to your dad. We saw what happened. I hope that he's doing all right now. I hope he's in high spirits. And we're sending him a lot of love and energy here.
Thank you. He's doing surprisingly well for someone who broke his hand in 3 spots in his back. He's chilling. And I'm like, nice.
Perfect.
But yeah, thank you so much. It means a lot to us, and I'll pass that on. So.
Absolutely. Well, hey, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thanks for joining us, Mackenzie, and we'll hopefully see you soon. Hopefully this will all end soon and we can get back to seeing shows and seeing you out on tour.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.